Dust. It had become Earth's second breath. Not the fine dust of bustling urban streets, nor the red earth dust of vast deserts, but the dust of collapse. It was a fine, gray mixture of crumbled concrete, rusted metal twisted like dry branches, and unidentifiable fragments of what once was life, furniture, clothes, electronics, all pulverized into a meaningless matter. It clung to the air, covering every surface with a gloomy shroud, and permeated every breath Captain Kaelen Vance took, leaving his throat dry, always with a salty, metallic taste. Outpost Delta 7, once a formidable fortress of steel and concrete facing all external threats, was now just a dilapidated bunker, where heavy silence reigned, broken only by the regular hum of the air filtration system and the heavy footsteps of the remaining soldiers. 4 months. 4 months since the colossal ships of the K'tharr Hegemony tore through Earth's blue sky, turning humanity's dawn into an eternal night. For the past 3 months, they had systematically crushed everything, unhurried yet unrelenting, from the orbital defense satellites that had been turned into cosmic debris circling a dead planet, to the great cities that once stood tall with skyscrapers reaching the clouds. All had been reduced to ash and meaningless rubble. Frequent ash rain poured down, gray and metallic tasting, permanently clouding the sky, no longer revealing the sun or familiar stars. Humans, those who survived, were pushed into old underground military outposts or makeshift shelters, isolated, cut off, like the last cells of a dying body, clinging to life. Outpost Delta 7 was one such place, a small, almost invisible dot on the map of a vast, ruined world. Kaelen propped his dust-caked boots on the dim control panel. This panel, with its intricate cracks and flickering, weak fluorescent light, had once been the heart of a fortified military defense center. Now, it was merely a relic, a reminder of a lost world and a war almost over. The main displays showed only tedious technical data about the outpost's life support system, oxygen levels, temperature, air pressure, numbers that affirmed their monotonous existence. All communication channels with the outside world had been cruelly and thoroughly cut. Delta 7 lived in an isolated bubble, where memories of life outside faded like a distant dream. Kaelen tasted the acrid dust in his mouth. He had tasted it so many times in the past weeks that he wondered if he still remembered what fresh air tasted like. Every breath seemed to draw in a part of the collapse, of the decay. He gently pushed the mini-gravity simulator in his palm. It was a smooth, heavy block of metal when still, but when he squeezed it gently, it would automatically adjust its gravity, making it almost weightless, then heavy again, then light. That constantly changing sensation was both addictive and soothing. This was a gift from Maya, his daughter, on her last birthday before the war. A high-tech toy she had been fascinated by, a symbol of human creativity and progress. Now, it was just a tiny piece of the world before. A world Kaelen, deep down, still refused to believe was permanently lost. It was an anchor, a thin thread connecting him to the past, a way to keep him from being completely swept away by the rising tide of despair. "You know what bothers me, Lieutenant?" Kaelen said, his voice hoarse, dry, as if he hadn't spoken daily for a long time. He stared at the dim screen, where meaningless numbers danced. The thought that we will just surrender and die. That we will just give up and let the K'tharr turn us into a tiny footnote in their history of conquest. That we will disappear as if we never existed. Lieutenant Anya Sharma sat opposite Kaelen, her eyes fixed on her personal tablet, her face illuminated by the weak blue light from the screen. She was a person of data, of numbers, of undeniable reality. Anya had witnessed too much collapse, too many grim statistics about humanity's loss, to retain any illusions. Her shoulders were heavy, and the deep lines on her forehead showed the burden of responsibility and despair she carried. She had lost her family in the early days of the invasion, when her city was turned into an ash furnace. Since then, all her emotions had been hidden behind a cold, pragmatic, and highly focused exterior. "Sir," Anya sighed softly, her breath almost merging with the hum of the air filtration system. "With all due respect, we are the last active military outpost on this planet with limited communication capabilities. We have been cut off from all support. We are outnumbered, outmatched technologically. We are completely isolated. The last outpost, means the last losers. Sir, reality is harsh. Kaelen tossed the gravity simulator into the air, catching it deftly as it suddenly became heavy in his hand. Like a stone. This skill, which had become an unconscious reflex, was honed from long months of waiting in the bunker, when there was nothing else to do but keep his hands and mind from rotting away from idleness and despair. Yes, but they don't know that. They don't know we are the last ones. And that's our only advantage. Anya raised an eyebrow, a small sign of curiosity, almost a silent challenge, questioning his perplexing optimism. What do you mean, sir? What advantage do we have when we have nothing left? According to the K'tharr Hegemony, Kaelen continued, a hint of sarcasm in his voice. He smirked, a bitter, wry smile. We might have underground bunkers full of tactical plasma weapons and an army of genetically enhanced alpha warriors just waiting to emerge like desert flowers after a dust storm. They think we still have an army. They think we still have weapons. They're just waiting for us to surrender. Waiting for an official announcement to confirm their victory. He gripped the gravity simulator tightly. The image of desert flowers suddenly vivid in his mind. Both tragicomic and terrifying. They're playing a waiting game. And that's when we'll strike a blow they never expected. Just then, an alarm blared, tearing through the outpost's tranquil night, startling them both. The sharp, piercing sound echoed in the confined space. The main screen, which had only displayed tedious technical parameters of the life support system, now flashed with a blinking red icon. Message incoming. Speak of our unfriendly planetary invaders. Anya mumbled, touching the alert with a finger. A familiar gesture now full of tension. Her face showed inherent fatigue, but also a hint of tension and a premonition of something bad. They're broadcasting again. Probably another goodnight message. The screen lit up, replacing the topographic map lines with the familiar, terrifying image of Grand Khan Xylar. His rock-hard skin gleamed under the artificial light of the command ship. Looking like a deathly, rough, and intimidating sculpture, he had 4 eyes, 2 large and fiery upper eyes, 2 smaller and more cunning lower eyes, which blinked asynchronously, a disturbing twitch that humans found extremely unsettling. There was an unmistakable complacency in his demeanor, an arrogance stemming from a near-perfect victory he believed was firmly in his grasp. Earth creatures, Xylar growled, processed through the K'tharr's advanced translation unit. His voice was deep, heavy, and utterly devoid of human emotion. Yet it conveyed clearly every brutal syllable, every word of contempt. It sounded flat, emotionless, but held a chilling triumph that made the listener shiver. Your resistance has been noteworthy, but futile. We have crushed your major military strongholds, crippled your global communication networks, and neutralized your orbital shields. Your governments have fallen. Your armies have disintegrated. It is time to accept the inevitable fate. Kaelen snorted, a sound of contempt. Right, we've heard this speech before. Another recording, I suppose? Or has he got a better version of the thesaurus this time? He said, almost not thinking about Anya watching. It was a play that had been performed repeatedly for the past 3 months. Each time a more devastating declaration than the last. Each time another nail in humanity's coffin. But Kaelen still felt a deep unease, a fire of anger flaring within him. The K'tharr Khanate grants you clemency. The Grand Khan continued, oblivious to Kaelen's sarcasm, or if aware, simply didn't care. Surrender now and we will allow your species to continue to exist under our benevolent rule. Should you continue to resist, we will have no choice but to implement more drastic measures. Anya clicked her tongue, the sound dry in the air. More drastic measures, she repeated flatly, her voice dripping with sarcasm. That's new. Must be using the K'tharr thesaurus. I wonder, how many words do they have for destruction in various nuances? Thousands, perhaps. Kaelen gave a small, dry, somewhat bitter laugh. He continued to toss his gravity simulator, feeling the shift in weight in his palm. Despite the desperate situation, humor remained a survival tool for him, a way to keep his spirit from completely collapsing. It was a fragile shield against the madness and fear trying to swallow them whole. You have 24 Earth hours to signal your surrender by deactivating all remaining military equipment and assembling your surviving leaders at your planetary capital. If you comply, the transition to K'tharr rule will be peaceful. Otherwise, Exwiler's teeth clicked together, a gruesome sound that humans had learned was the K'tharr equivalent of a sneer. An image of impending destruction. A promise of slaughter. Well, I'm sure a species as intelligent as yourselves can imagine the consequences. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the two staring at a blank screen, where only the intricate cracks reflected their faces. Distorted and grim, the silence became heavier than ever, filled with unspoken threats, echoes of despair, and the stark truth of their predicament. So, Anya said after a moment, her voice almost a sigh, escaping from deep within her chest. She pushed a strand of hair from her forehead, her face showing obvious fatigue. Should I start drafting our heartfelt surrender speech? Or would you like the honor, Captain? She looked at Kaelen, her gaze stern, but deep within it was a faint glimmer of hope, an anticipation, an unspoken question. Kaelen did not answer immediately. He gripped his gravity simulator one last time and squeezed hard, so hard he could feel the muscles in his palm tense painfully, almost tearing. Anger simmered within him, a tiny flame in a sea of despair, smoldering but relentless. He couldn't accept it, couldn't accept defeat, surrender, destruction, not while he still breathed, while he still had the will to fight. Captain? Anya called, her voice now tinged with worry, a hint of urgency, as if trying to pull him from the abyss of his thoughts. Establish contact with Director Anya Rostova immediately. Lieutenant. Kaelen's voice was low and firm, like steel striking stone, without a trace of hesitation. He had made his decision. Anya frowned. She knew the complexities of this. Rostova is at the Tartarus facility. That's halfway across the Earth, sir, and our communications are severely limited. We're lucky to maintain internal bunker connections these days. How can we possibly contact Tartarus? I know our communications are limited. Lieutenant. Kaelen interrupted, lowering his feet from the console and sitting up straight, his back as rigid as a wall. His gaze was sharp, looking directly at Anya, as if seeing through all the harsh realities she presented. But this isn't over, not by a long shot. The K'tharr haven't won until we give up, and I'm not giving up. Anya raised an eyebrow. May I speak frankly, sir? You never wait for permission. Kaelen gave a slight smirk, a tired but resolute smile. It was a small jab, a sign of the trust in their relationship. Yes, but sir, what exactly do you think we can do? The K'tharr have systematically crushed every major planetary defense. They've reduced our military capability to almost nothing. They've destroyed the global optical network, leaving us blind and deaf. We have no fleets left, no command centers. I've checked the data hundreds of times. Sir, we have nothing left to fight with. Nothing at all. Anya presented the harsh realities, verbal bullets piercing through any false hope. They didn't destroy everything, Kaelen said, a slow smile spreading across his face. A smile devoid of humor but filled with deep mystery and determination. A promise of something grand. They don't know about Echo. Anya's eyes widened. She had heard that name before, but only in whispered new recruit stories. Legends spun to keep spirits up during long, hopeless nights. Echo? That's just a myth, sir. A story we tell recruits to make us sound cooler than we are. A project cancelled decades ago. A crazy idea buried in classified documents. Is it? Kaelen stood up and walked to a seemingly ordinary wall, unremarkable among the gray concrete walls of the outpost. He placed his palm on it and then, his voice resonated with a low, resonant cadence, a sequence of sounds Anya had never heard from him. A complex vocal passphrase, designed to be recognized only by its creator. A unique biometric identifier. A hidden retinal scanner emerged from the wall, scanning his eyes with a faint blue laser beam. A soft beep sounded, followed by a resonant mechanical click, like the last lock being opened. A dry yet promising sound. Come on, Anya, Kaelen said, without turning around, his eyes fixed on the slowly opening wall, as if he were looking into the future. You didn't really think humanity would put all its eggs in one basket, did you? We've been preparing for first contact, hostile or otherwise, ever since we first pointed telescopes at the stars. There's always been a contingency of the contingency. And this is it. Plan A failed, but we still have Plan Z. With a soft hiss, the wall slid aside, revealing a narrow corridor bathed in neon blue light. Not the harsh fluorescent light of the outpost, but a soft glow, as if emanating from the air itself. Both brilliant and ethereal, full of promise, it illuminated a dark and previously unknown path, promising something beyond Anya's comprehension. A secret buried for decades. A hope carefully preserved. "Oh my God," Anya whispered, rising from her chair, her eyes wide with astonishment, disbelieving what she was seeing. Every piece of data, every number, every reality she had trusted was shattered by this sight. The skepticism that had permeated her throughout the months of war seemed to vanish. "As real as the aliens currently flying around our planet," Kaelen confirmed, stepping into the corridor, the blue light reflecting on his face, highlighting his determined, resolute features. "And it's our ticket to send them a message they'll never forget. An echo that the entire galaxy will have to listen to." Anya stood there for a moment, staring at the mesmerizing blue light. Then, she shook her head, a small smile slowly appearing on her lips. It wasn't a smile of amusement or joy, but of surprise and a new, fragile yet intensely burning spark of hope. A tiny flame in a sea of despair. Perhaps, just perhaps, Captain Kaelen Vance wasn't as insane as she thought. Perhaps, there was still a chance. The neon blue light from Outpost Delta 7's secret corridor cast itself across Kaelen Vance's face, highlighting the rugged features of a man accustomed to fighting in the dark. His gaze as steady as if he were looking through the veil of fate. Anya Sharma, her face still etched with a hint of awe, followed closely behind him. The musty, dusty smell of the outpost had vanished, replaced by a faint metallic and ozone scent, as if a current of energy flowed within the walls, an aroma of ancient yet living technology. "All of this, how long has it been here?" Anya asked, her voice a whisper, echoing in the confined space, as if she were speaking to a spirit trapped within the walls. She reached out to touch the smooth metal wall, feeling its cold, hard surface beneath her fingertips. It was a real sensation, unlike the crumbling debris on the surface. "Before I was even born, Lieutenant," Kaelen replied, his footsteps steady, without a hint of hesitation. "And perhaps even before your grandfather was born. Some projects take time to develop." Anya and humanity probably looked up at the stars with a healthy dose of paranoia from the moment we first set foot on the moon. Fearing what might be waiting out there, he glanced back at Anya, a small but meaningful smile on his lips. "We are not as naive a species as the K'tharr think." The corridor sloped downwards, leading them deeper into the earth. The blue light flickered in a steady rhythm, like the beat of a hidden heart, illuminating strange hieroglyphic markings on the walls that Anya could not understand. They resembled no earth language she had ever seen in her vast data archives, not ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, not Sumerian cuneiform, nor Mayan script. They were flowing yet intricate lines, evoking images of constellations, orbits, and unidentified entities. "These symbols, they're not ours, are they?" Anya asked, her gaze sweeping across each symbol with curiosity and contemplation. "I've never seen them anywhere in our recorded history." Kaelen merely glanced, his eyes too familiar with these mysteries. "They belong to those who saw what was coming. Those who believed we wouldn't be alone. Those who began building the bridge beyond the stars long before we were ready to walk upon it." His voice was deep, carrying a hint of reverie, a touch of admiration for those who came before. As they went deeper, the air grew heavier, but not stifling or lacking oxygen. Instead, it was a sensation of pressure, as if the immense mass of earth and rock above was pressing down. Yet there was a strange stillness, as if they were in a place that did not belong to the chaotic surface world. After about 10 minutes of walking, the corridor opened into a larger system of tunnels, where old, rusted tracks lay dormant, seemingly abandoned for decades. A dilapidated magnetic levitation train carriage was parked there, covered in a fine layer of dust, the only evidence that this place had once been in use. "Fantastic," Anya muttered, staring at the train car. "Are we taking a horse and buggy, sir? I was hoping for some sort of teleportation system after all you've been saying." "High-speed maglev," Kaelen corrected, dusting off a small panel on the wall. "Or at least, it used to be. Now, let's call it the emergency Tron." He pressed a button, and with a faint hum, The train car's headlights flickered to life, just enough to illuminate the dark path ahead, revealing tracks that stretched into infinity. Climb aboard, Lieutenant. We don't have much time. Grand Khan Exwilar isn't known for his patience. The journey to the Tartarus facility was long, exhausting, and fraught with tension. The ancient maglev train shrieked on the unmaintained tracks, the grinding of metal against metal echoing through the tunnel, sounding like the Earth's own groans. They sped through dark tunnels that likely predated the Cold War, structures built during the peak of nuclear fears. At times, it traversed vast chambers where what looked like old mining equipment lay abandoned, or large civilian shelters with crumbling structures, testaments to another era of preparation, now mere shadows of the past. Kaelen clutched his gravity simulator, occasionally squeezing it in his palm, feeling the shifting weight, a way to keep his mind from drifting into the lurking despair. He recalled the faces of fallen comrades, the cities that had been incinerated. Anya, meanwhile, constantly checked the watch on her wrist, Grand Khan Exwiler's 24-hour deadline ticking away mercilessly, each passing second a burden upon them. Lieutenant, Kaelen said, his voice muffled, echoing in the train compartment. We'll have to pass through some insecure areas. Even though this tunnel system is supposed to be secret and unknown to the K'tharr, they have detection capabilities we don't fully understand. We need to be literally invisible. Even the slightest signal could reveal our position. Anya nodded, her face grim. I'm ready, sir. My anti-detection suit and personal jammer are good to go. We'll stick to the pre-programmed route, minimizing electronic device use. They had to take a detour. A section of the main tunnel had completely collapsed during the K'tharr's latest bombardment, forcing them to surface and traverse a short distance through the ravaged wasteland. It was the most dangerous period of the journey. The sky was still shrouded in a thick layer of dust and radioactive energy particles from K'tharr weaponry, creating a grotesque purplish-red haze. Through the faint gaps, they could see the dim specks of K'tharr patrol ships in the air, like invisible eyes gliding across the eternal night. Every whistling gust of wind, every strange sound, sent adrenaline coursing through their veins. They moved like ghosts, utilizing every rock crevice, every fragment of ruined architecture for cover, treading lightly like nocturnal predators. Once, they even had to hold their breath and lie still under a cold, twisted sheet of metal as a K'tharr reconnaissance drone swept by just meters away, its sensor lights slowly and meticulously scanning the ground. Kaelen clearly felt the vibration of the ground beneath him as it flew past, his heart pounding in his chest. By the time they found another tunnel entrance, filthy and exhausted, less than 6 hours remained before Exwiler's deadline. Their faces were smeared with dust and sweat, but Kaelen's eyes still burned with an unwavering determination, like the last flame in a long night. Anya, despite her fatigue, maintained intense focus, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings, assessing every potential danger. When they finally reached the area outside Tartarus, Kaelen felt a stronger surge of energy, as if the air around them was electrified, creating a strange stillness. The facility's entrance was incredibly subtly disguised, appearing as a towering natural cliff face, with no indication of the massive structure within. There was only one identifying mark, a finely etched symbol on the stone. A circle encompassing a zigzag line, representing echo, the echo of life amidst chaos. A symbol Kaelen had seen in the secret corridor. The moment they stepped through the hidden gate, a strong, warm gust of compressed air cleaned the dust from their clothes and skin. An instantaneous purification from the outside world. The gentle light of Tartarus welcomed them, but it wasn't the neon blue light from the previous tunnel. This was a pristine white light, illuminating sturdy concrete walls, reminiscent of the deepest shelters from the Cold War, but much larger and more imposing. However, the technology here far surpassed anything Kaelen and Anya had ever seen. A strange blend of classic robustness and futuristic engineering. Captain Kaelen Vance. A deep, authoritative voice resonated. Kaelen turned and saw Director Anya Rostova approaching them. She was a tall, imposing woman, with neatly cropped silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to calculate thousands of variables at once. She exuded an aura of intelligence and decisiveness. A true leader in a time of apocalypse. Glad you could make it. Though I must say I expected you sooner. Apologies, Director, Kaelen replied, without a hint of remorse. Only weariness and determination. He and Anya stood at attention, saluting with military precision. We took a detour through a few old cities. You know, K'tharr invasion, end of the world. Still can't miss a chance to explore the remnants of a prior civilization. Kaelen smirked, a tired smile. Rostova's lips twitched slightly, perhaps a smile, though it was fleeting. Your sense of humor is intact. I see. Good. You'll need it for what's to come. We have very little time. She led them through a series of security checkpoints, each more sophisticated than the last, with technologies Anya had never seen in any classified documents. From advanced biometric scanners to screens displaying incomprehensible data matrices, they demonstrated the absolute security of the facility. Kaelen noticed that although the facility's exterior seemed old, the walls were solid concrete, reminiscent of Cold War bunkers. But what lay hidden inside was something else entirely. Some of this technology doesn't look Earth-based, Anya Sharma observed quietly, her gaze sweeping across a control panel that emitted a soft purple light, its lines defying any human design principles. Very perceptive, Lieutenant, Rostova said without turning around, her steps firm. Let's just say the K'tharr weren't Earth's first guests. Our history is much richer than what's written in textbooks. We've had friends, and learned lessons from them. She paused, her sharp eyes looking directly at Anya Sharma. A meaningful gaze, as if speaking of a secret only a select few were privy to. They finally entered a vast room that reminded Kaelen of NASA's Mission Control Center, but on a much larger scale and with superior technology. Dozens of scientists and military personnel moved purposefully between workstations, their faces illuminated by the dim blue light of screens displaying information Kaelen couldn't comprehend. Complex lines of code and diagrams. And at the center of it all was a massive holographic projection of the solar system with red dots indicating the positions of the K'tharr fleet both in orbit and on the ground. Like festering sores on a diseased planet. Impressive, isn't it? A voice sounded from behind them, sounding irritable yet filled with pride. Kaelen turned and saw a thin man with disheveled hair, wearing thick glasses that slid down his nose. His lab coat was stained and wrinkled, as if he'd worn it for weeks without changing. He often carried an old stylus pen, sometimes using it to unconsciously scratch his head. Beside him was a younger woman, with neatly tied black hair, a calmer and more organized demeanor than the man. Captain Kaelen Vance, Lieutenant Anya Sharma, Rostova introduced, a small but warmer smile appearing on her lips as she looked at the two scientists. Meet Dr. Aris Thorne and Dr. Lena Petrova, the lead scientists of Project Echo. Aris is a brilliant physicist, though a bit distracted, and Lena is an excellent bioengineer and cyberneticist, who has kept Aris from floating off into space. The legendary Echo in the flesh, Kaelen said, shaking Aris Thorne's hand. Aris's hand was cold and thin, as if he never went outdoors, only living in the artificial light of the laboratory. I must admit, I wasn't entirely sure you were real until I saw that hidden corridor in our outpost. Oh, we're real all right, Lena Petrova replied with a tired but friendly smile. She courteously shook Anya's and Kaelen's hands. Whether we're operational is another question entirely. We've had a few minor issues with the primary power source. Minor issues? Aris Thorne grumbled, absently scratching his head with the stylus. It's a colossal power interruption. We're trying to activate a machine that can bend reality and we're dealing with circuit overloads. I told them, use a bigger phase plasma rectifier. But they insisted on this standard Galaxy Grade 1. Don't listen to him, Captain, Lena said, casting a slight glare at Aris. We've been working tirelessly to get the system operational. We've resolved most of the issues. But we are still missing some critical components, especially a backup power source. Let me guess, that's where we come in? Kaelen asked, raising an eyebrow. Precisely, Rostova confirmed. Your outpost was one of the few to retain an intact quantum mass module after the initial bombardment. It's one of the most stable power sources we have. Please tell me you brought it with you. Captain. Anya Sharma patted the reinforced box strapped to her back, a self-satisfied smile on her face. No way I'd leave home without it. It's the only thing my superiors were truly worried about losing. Excellent, Rostova said, her eyes gleaming. She gestured for them to follow her to a raised platform in the center of the room, where a series of large screens awaited. Now let me show you exactly what echo is and how it will help us turn the tide against the K'tharr. Earth may have fallen, but its echo will resonate far and wide. The colossal holographic projection of the solar system slowly rotated on the raised platform in Tartarus's command center. The planets glittered under the soft light, Earth a prominent blue marble amidst the blackness of space. Thousands of tiny red dots representing the K'tharr fleet remained, relentless sores on the cosmic body. The air in the room was thick with tense silence, broken only by the occasional clicking of keyboards and the whispers of technicians. Men and women working tirelessly, their eyes red from lack of sleep but filled with determination. Kaelen Vance stood beside Director Anya Rostova, his gaze sweeping across the display, keenly aware of the weight of every eye on her. He knew this moment would decide humanity's fate. Impressive, isn't it? Rostova said, her voice low but containing a cold confidence, as if she were seeing something beyond others' sight. She wasn't looking at Kaelen, but staring at the rotating projection, as if speaking to the stars themselves. For decades, humanity has secretly prepared for the possibility of hostile contact with extragalactic civilizations. While the public heard stories of budget cuts to space programs and curtailed military operations, a select group of nations, with unexpected support, pooled resources to create a final line of defense. A line of defense that no one, not even our enemies, could have anticipated. Echo, Kaelen said, realizing. He felt a jolt run down his spine. Not from fear, but from intense anticipation. It wasn't just a name, it was a promise. An echo of hope from deep within the past, reaching for the future. Echo, Rostova confirmed, nodding slightly. A complex network of thousands of satellites, space stations hidden in plain sight, and massive energy transceivers. Some are subtly disguised as harmless drifting meteoroid fragments in asteroid belts. Others concealed by experimental antimatter and spatial distortion technology. There are eyes and ears in space, waiting for their moment. Anya Sharma, standing beside Kaelen, couldn't contain her astonishment. Her eyes widened, darting from Director Rostova to the solar system projection, where faint small blue dots were gradually appearing amidst the thousands of K'tharr red dots. Wait, Director, she interrupted, her voice filled with skepticism but also hope. You're saying we have spatial distortion technology? Like, actually working technology? Not just theoretical on paper? Dr. Aris Thorne, with his characteristic wrinkled expression, adjusted his thick glasses sliding down his nose. He often seemed distracted, but now, his eyes gleamed with a strange light. Let's just say we've received some technological assistance over the years. Lieutenant Sharma, not all alien civilizations are as conquest-driven as our current guests. There are those with different ideals, with a longer view of development. Lena Petrova glanced at Aris, a small smile on her lips as if she was used to his convoluted way of speaking. What Dr. Thorne is trying to say cryptically is, yes, we have spatial distortion technology, and much more than you can imagine. The K'tharr Khanate believes they have destroyed all of Earth's defenses. Rostova continued, her gaze turning cold, like ice. They don't know about Echo because its existence is one of humanity's most tightly guarded secrets. Only a select few in each participating nation knew about it, and those individuals died to keep this secret, even taking it to their graves. Not even K'tharr agents could find it. So what exactly does Echo do? Kaelen asked, studying the holographic display with renewed interest. He felt a burning curiosity, a desperate need to understand humanity's secret weapon. Rostova smiled, a rare and enigmatic smile. It does exactly what its name suggests. Captain, it creates an echo that is not just sound, but image, message, and undeniable presence. On the bridge of the Invincible Conqueror flagship, Grand Khan Xylar stood rigidly, his face stony, his fiery eyes sweeping across the display screens. He watched with satisfaction as the 24-hour deadline approached. The countdown clock on the large screen showed only a few minutes remaining. Humanity had resisted more fiercely than expected, their resilience almost noteworthy, almost deserving of inclusion in the Khanate's collection of conquests. But in the end, They were just another species added to the Khanate's expanding empire. A tiny dot on the grand map of conquest. Situation report. Xylar growled, his lower jaw clicking impatiently. The sound resonated in the quiet of the bridge, making his subordinate officers tremble. Colonel Krell, his aide, approached with a data tablet. Krall's tough skin showed signs of fatigue. He hadn't slept in hours. Our forces are in position. Grand Khan. No signs of organized resistance from Earth creatures for the past 12 hours. Their remaining communication channels are filled with panic and confusion. They are desperate. And their leadership? Krell looked down at his tablet. A hint of self-satisfaction in his voice. No activity detected at their designated rendezvous point. It seems they chose defiance over surrender. A foolish choice. Xylar emitted a sound that to human ears might resemble a satisfied growl. A guttural rasp from deep within his throat. Predictable. Humans are always arrogant until the last moment. Begin preparations for the final phase. Target their remaining population centers. Ensure the message of the Khanate's retribution is clear. With pleasure, Grand Khan, Krell replied, turning to relay the orders. He felt a sick satisfaction at the thought of the impending destruction. And Krell, Xylar said, his voice lower, sharper. Krell immediately stopped, bowing his head. Yes, Grand Khan? Ensure our observation drones record everything. Every moment. The High Council enjoys watching the moment a species realizes its extinction is inevitable. It's good for morale back home. A warning to others who might consider defying the Khanate. Absolutely, Grand Khan. Drones are in position. Every angle covered. Xylar turned back to the display, where the blue planet spun slowly beneath them. A tiny bright spot in the sea of stars. Such a waste, he thought. Earth had abundant resources. A diverse ecosystem. That could have benefited the Khanate for centuries. But humanity had proven too stubborn, too resistant to the idea of subjugation. And in the grand calculus of galactic conquest, some species simply weren't worth the trouble of assimilation. Better to make an example of them. A monument to defiance. The Grand Khan was so lost in thought that he almost missed the first anomaly. A brief, flickering burst of light from somewhere near the planet's north pole. A faint blue speck. He blinked, dismissing it as nothing more than a reflection on the display, or a minor sensor glitch. Then it happened again, and again, with increasing frequency, until suddenly the entire atmosphere around Earth seemed to shimmer with an unusual light. An unnatural glow, not a reflection of the sun, but something alive, radiating from within the planet. What is happening? Xylar demanded, his voice rising, devoid of its usual calm. Krell, explain this. Immediately, Colonel Krell had been frantically consulting the ship's sensor personnel. His face blanched. Unclear. Grand Khan, our instruments are detecting massive energy fluctuations in Earth's upper atmosphere. The data doesn't match any known pattern. It's not a weapon. It's not a natural physical reaction. It is a weapon? Xylar growled, his fiery eyes narrowing, staring at the screen, as if to pierce it with his will. It must be a new weapon they've hidden. No, Grand Khan, the energy signature doesn't fit any known weapon profile. It's almost as if. Krell was interrupted by a gasp from one of the bridge crew. A gaunt K'tharr warrior staring at a subsidiary screen in horror. Every K'tharr warrior on the bridge turned to look at the main display, where the impossible was happening before their eyes. The atmosphere around Earth was transforming. Patterns of light danced across the planet's surface, forming what appeared to be words, images, symbols, but not mere words or images. Xylar couldn't grasp it immediately. It wasn't a written language. It was a colossal abstract symbol, formed from brilliant bands of light, encompassing an entire hemisphere of the planet. From pole to pole, something only visible from space. A giant hand, clenched into a fist, then transformed into a fiercely burning flame, and finally settled into the image of a human standing tall, defiant, tiny yet challenging, with a brilliant light behind its back, as if radiating power. He knew with a certainty that chilled him to the bone that he was witnessing something unprecedented in the Khanate's long history of conquest. A silent yet potent declaration of war. And beneath that symbol, in slightly smaller but no less clear light patterns, was a complex binary code, transmitted on every frequency. Every bandwidth the K'tharr could receive. Their translation unit worked furiously to decipher it, and the result appeared on Xwyler's screen. Clear, cold, and defiant. An unmistakable statement. Death is not the end. Surrender is. Back at the Tartarus facility, the air crackled with electricity as technicians and scientists watched the echo network activate. Small but ecstatic cheers erupted throughout the room. The quantum mass module that Kaelen and Anya brought was the final piece of the puzzle, allowing the entire system to synchronize for the first time, emitting a massive burst of energy. "It's working," Lena Petrova exclaimed, her voice cracking with excitement, her fingers flying across the control panel with swift precision. Atmospheric ionization at 97% efficiency. Energy levels stable across all nodes. "We're shaping it. The message is transmitting clearly," Aris Thorne reported, his voice almost giddy, a rarity from a man usually only concerned with mathematical formulas and complex equations. His eyes shone brightly behind his thick glasses. "Every frequency, every bandwidth, they can't miss it." Kaelen stood beside Director Rostova, watching the holographic display as thousands of satellites and hidden stations simultaneously activated, sending precisely calibrated energy pulses into Earth's atmosphere. The result was a planet-wide aurora effect that could be shaped and controlled to form words, images, even complex patterns. It was a spectacular light show, a masterpiece of technology and will. "An impressive light show," Kaelen commented, his voice still tinged with skepticism. "But how exactly will this stop the K'tharr from wiping us out? A message, no matter how impressive, cannot defeat a battle fleet." Rostova smiled enigmatically, a confident smile. "The message is just phase 1. Captain. Phase 1 is to get their attention. To let them know we aren't dead." "A distraction? For what?" Kaelen asked, his gaze probing. "For phase 2, she replied, nodding to a technician who pressed a series of buttons on his console. On the holographic display, dozens of new blue dots appeared, seemingly materializing around the K'tharr fleet. Like sharks emerging from nowhere, they rapidly moved into position, surrounding the K'tharr formation. "What am I looking at?" Kaelen asked, his voice cracking with astonishment, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. He had seen preliminary designs in Echo's classified documents, but seeing them manifest so clearly was another matter entirely. "That," Anya Sharma whispered beside him, her voice lost in awe, "is warships. Human warships. We have them." "Exactly, Lieutenant," Rostova confirmed, her voice filled with pride. "Or more precisely, ships built through a joint venture between humanity and certain, shall we call them, interested parties, who wish to remain anonymous for now. We call them the Nightfall Formation." "How long have we had these?" Kaelen demanded, his mind reeling with the implications. "Why didn't we use them sooner? Why did we suffer all this damage?" "Long enough to know we couldn't deploy them without the element of surprise," Rostova answered, her gaze turning grim. "The K'tharr outnumber us 10 to 1. Even with our advanced technology, a direct confrontation would have been suicide. We needed an unforeseen advantage. But they don't know about these ships. And they certainly don't know about the spatial displacement weaponry, SDW, they carry." "What?" Anya Sharma asked, her voice slightly higher than usual, her eyes widening further as a completely new concept was introduced. Aris Thorne continued to explain. Barely containing his excitement, he pushed his stylus aside, completely focused on the explanation. "We can't destroy their entire fleet with conventional weapons, Captain, but we don't need to. The SDWs create localized spatial shifts, essentially pushing the K'tharr ships into a sub-dimension for a brief moment in time. It's like pulling the rug out from under their feet. Not permanently," Lena Petrova added quickly, seeing Kaelen's expression as he tried to grasp it. "Think of it as an extremely sophisticated form of spatial disruption that affects their navigation and weapon systems. It will cripple them, disorient them, and give us enough time to implement the next phase of the plan." "What's that?" Kaelen urged, feeling a surge of excitement within him. Rostova's smile widened, a smile of power and triumph. "Negotiation, Captain, but this time we'll do it from a position of strength. They won't be able to refuse an offer they can't counter." On the display, the hidden human fleet moved into position, surrounding the now disoriented K'tharr armada. like tigers circling wounded prey. The atmospheric message continued to glow around the planet. A defiant statement visible from space. A brilliant beacon of human will. Director, a communications officer called, his voice trembling with excitement and disbelief. We're receiving a signal from the K'tharr flagship. They're requesting to speak with Earth leadership. Directly. Well, Rostova said, adjusting her coat, a confident and commanding gesture. It seems we have their attention. Connect them to the main screen. It's time to talk. Grand Khan Exwiler's face appeared. His skin visibly grayer than in the previous broadcast. And his eyes revealed a rare panic. For the first time, he looked uncertain, even a little afraid. This is unexpected, the Grand Khan said, his translator struggling to convey the mixture of shock and grudging respect in his voice. It seems we may have underestimated your species. What is this? Is this some unknown weapon? That's an understatement, Rostova replied coldly, her voice sharp as a knife. As you can see, Grand Khan, the situation has somewhat changed. Your ships are currently unable to fire their weapons or activate their engines. This condition will persist until we decide otherwise. You are at a disadvantage. Exwiler. The Grand Khan's lower jaw clicked rapidly. A sign of extreme agitation and fear. How can this be? Our intelligence indicated. Your species possessed no such technology. This is impossible. Your intelligence was incomplete. Rostova interrupted pointedly, her voice sharp as a blade. We have been preparing for this moment for decades. Grand Khan, humanity may be young compared to the K'tharr Khanate, but we are quick learners and resourceful. We are not the weak prey you thought. And stubborn as hell, too, Kaelen added, stepping into view beside Rostova, his gaze fixed on Exwiler. And we really don't like being told what to do. We are not subservient. I am beginning to understand that, Exwiler admitted, a rare helplessness in his voice. He seemed completely shocked. What are your terms? I concede you have gained a temporary advantage. Rostova raised an eyebrow. Terms? I believe you misunderstand the situation. Grand Khan, we are not negotiating your surrender. We are negotiating your departure. You and your fleet will leave Earth's solar system immediately and permanently. In return, we will not use the technology of our new friends to turn your ships into very expensive, very permanent orbital decorations. We do not wish for unnecessary bloodshed. New friends? The Grand Khan's 4 eyes widened in horror. Genuine fear was now evident on his face. You have allies? Who dares defy the Khanate? Let's just say, Rostova replied smoothly, with an enigmatic smile, humanity is not as alone in the universe as you might think. And not all advanced civilizations share the Khanate's approach to interstellar relations. There are far greater forces you have yet to imagine. The air in the Tartarus command center was thick with the scent of adrenaline mixed with exhaustion. The clock on the main screen had long passed Grand Khan Exwiler's 24-hour deadline. 24 tense hours, each minute stretching like an eternity. But finally, the last K'tharr ships vanished from Earth's orbit. The red dots on the holographic projection winked out, leaving behind a peaceful blue and white Earth slowly spinning. A jade marble against the deep black of space. A collective sigh of relief escaped somewhere in the room, spreading like a wave from one person to another. The cheers weren't booming, not boisterous, but rather murmurs, gentle pats on the back, and tears streaming down faces streaked with sweat and dust. All were expressions of release after a long period of pent-up tension. Captain Kaelen Vance felt his shoulders slump, the stress that had weighed on him for months finally dissolving. It was like an invisible burden had been lifted, leaving him feeling light to his very bones. He looked at Anya Sharma, who also exhaled, a tired but genuine smile on her lips, her eyes glistening with tears. We did it, Captain, Anya whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Almost inaudible, she wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. I can't believe it. Kaelen nodded, trying to form words but failing. His throat was tight. We did it, Lieutenant. We actually did it. He looked around the room, at the exhausted but joyful faces. The scientists and technicians, who had worked tirelessly, almost without sleep for days, were now slumped in their chairs, some even having fallen asleep where they sat, helmets still on their heads. Their dedication was immeasurable. Lena Petrova, her neatly tied black hair now loose, approached Kaelen and Anya, holding 2 steaming ceramic mugs. Coffee, Captain, Lieutenant, strong, hot, and probably the only kind left on Earth. I had to dip into the last of the emergency reserves to make enough for everyone. Kaelen took the mug, inhaling the bitter, rich aroma. Thanks, Doctor. I won't refuse. This is exactly what I need right now. He looked at Lena's coffee mug. It had a stylized echo symbol printed on it and a handwritten inscription. I survived an alien invasion and all I got was this lousy mug. He chuckled softly, a small, dry laugh. I like your mug. It's very appropriate given the circumstances. Lena gave a small smirk, her eyes tired but also full of humor. A gift from a colleague before the war. Ironic, isn't it? Now it's probably the only remaining artifact of our comedic culture. Aris Thorne, with his perpetually wrinkled expression, remained glued to his console, clicking away at commands. Still a few minor anomalies in the spatial distortion fields. Nothing to worry about, just residual energy signatures from the K'tharr fleet. They'll dissipate within a few hours. But I still have to monitor them to ensure no side effects. He mumbled, as if talking to himself. Director Rostova, though weary, maintained her dignified demeanor. She turned, her gaze sweeping over everyone in the room, one by one, as if committing each face to memory. Though the Khanate has retreated, we must not be delusional. They may return, not today, perhaps not for many years. But they are a conquering empire. They will return to reclaim their honor. But we will be much more ready. Kaelen said, his voice firm. We have Echo, we have the ships, and we have the people who dared to stand up. Exactly, Rostova nodded, a small but confident smile on her lips. And the Khanate now knows about Echo. They know about our allies. That will make our next encounter, if there is one, very different. They will no longer be able to underestimate humanity. A few hours later, as the faint light of the first post-victory morning filtered through Tartarus's ventilation shafts, carrying a light breeze, an important announcement echoed in the command center. The peace was only relative. Director Rostova, a communications officer, called, his voice slightly trembling. We just received a verified call from the Lyran Alliance. Their ambassador is requesting an urgent meeting. They say it's a matter of utmost importance. Anya Rostova nodded, gesturing to Aris Thorne. Put them on the main screen. Doctor, it's time to meet our old friends. Aris Thorne, his eyes still red from lack of sleep but now full of energy, quickly typed the final commands. A holographic image of a tall, slender entity, with softly glowing skin and large, dark eyes appeared on the screen, as if made of starlight. It was the Lyran ambassador, Solara. She exuded a strange, ethereal beauty, and a profound wisdom. Welcome to the Galactic Alliance. Director Rostova, Solara said, her voice smooth and melodious through the translator, like gentle music. And congratulations, humanity has passed its test spectacularly. We have been watching with great interest. Kaelen Vance and Anya Sharma exchanged bewildered glances. Test? Kaelen asked, his voice filled with skepticism. He felt a sense of being used rising within him. This was a war of survival, not a test. Lena Petrova stepped forward, seeing Kaelen's expression. The Lyran Alliance is a confederation of peaceful galactic civilizations, dedicated to technological research and development, and maintaining balance in the galaxy. They have been observing humanity for a very long time, Captain, even before we had spaceflight capability. We've been in contact with them for decades, in absolute secrecy, Aris Thorne added, pacing the room as if winding himself up. We couldn't go public with it, it would have caused widespread panic. Echo's technology, our Nightfall ships. It's all a product of that collaboration. They couldn't directly intervene, but they could provide knowledge. So the K'tharr invasion, that was part of the test? Anya Sharma asked, her voice filled with skepticism and a hint of anger. The idea that all this suffering was part of a larger plan unsettled her. Not entirely, Lieutenant, Director Rostova clarified, her gaze meeting Solara's, as if there was a silent understanding between the two. The K'tharr Khanate is a very real threat, an expansionist empire the Lyran Alliance has tried to contain for centuries. They are a constant menace, but the timing of their attack on Earth may not have been entirely coincidental. Solara continued, her voice still smooth but heavy with weight. The Lyran Alliance detected the K'thar's plans for Earth. We could have intervened directly. But that would have violated strict Alliance non-interference protocols, which could have triggered a much larger galactic war. Instead, we chose an indirect approach, to provide humanity with the technology and knowledge to defend yourselves. But to leave the choice of action entirely up to you. We wanted to see if you had the will to fight for your existence. And that's why Echo exists. Lena added, her voice clear and decisive. It was a way for the K'tharr Khanate to realize that you weren't easy prey, but a formidable opponent, and for the Lyran Alliance to assess humanity's ability to stand on its own. You proved it undeniably. And what's the result of this test? Kaelen asked, a touch of sarcasm in his voice. The anger still simmering. He was still struggling to accept the idea that what they had endured was part of a test. Solara responded, we have assessed your actions as the most symbolic display of free will we have ever witnessed. Turning an entire planetary atmosphere into a silent declaration. An image of defiance. It is a unique style. Unprecedented in galactic history. Kaelen could only shake his head. A weak smile playing on his lips. Great. We survived an intergalactic invasion by turning the whole planet into a giant billboard. I guess that's one way to make an impression. In the following days, Tartarus became the center of a new era. The Lyran Alliance began assisting Earth in restoring global communication networks and the Internet, using their advanced technology to repair the damage caused by the K'tharr. For Aris Thorne and Lena Petrova, it was the best news they had ever received. Can you believe it, Lena? Aris said, his hands flying across a pristine, much more complex control panel, designed by the Lyran Alliance. The entire network was crippled. And now, we can connect to the entire galactic network. Data, knowledge, it's all opening up. Lena smiled, but her eyes still showed fatigue. Don't get too excited, Aris. We still need to understand their protocols. And no one said we don't have a mountain of work to do. Integrating this technology will take years, even decades. They also offered to share technology. Director Rostova announced after a long meeting with Solara. She looked at Kaelen and Anya. Her gaze serious. Unlimited energy from mini black holes. Regenerative medicine capable of curing all diseases. Faster than light travel without needing light speed. But there's a condition. Humanity must demonstrate its ability to use it responsibly. They don't want us to repeat the mistakes of the past, or become a new threat. Kaelen shrugged. Sounds like we're on intergalactic probation. From a last stand outpost to a species on trial. Rostova nodded slightly, a rare smile gracing her lips. A genuine smile, devoid of any tension. That's one way to put it, Captain. But it's an opportunity we cannot miss. An opportunity for humanity to truly mature. Kaelen walked to Tartarus's massive observation window. Looking out at the night sky. Though still veiled by ash, he could see a faint blue glow still shimmering on the horizon, the remnants of Echo. A permanent imprint on the atmosphere. He recalled the days when he was a fighter pilot, looking up at the stars with childlike curiosity, eager to explore the universe's mysteries. Then, he had endured the darkest days, looking up at the stars with fear, with K'tharr ships scarring the sky. And now, he looked up at them with a newfound feeling, hope and boundless possibility. He had lost so much. Family, friends, a world he once knew. Many had lost so much. But humanity had survived, and not just survived, they had earned their place in a larger universe. Not through surrender, but through iron will, relentless resourcefulness, and a peculiar sense of humor. Kaelen brought his gravity simulator to his hand. Squeezing it gently, it became weightless in his hand, as if all burdens had vanished, as if he had shed all worries. A universe full of unknowns, full of possibilities, awaited. He felt a strong urge to explore it, no longer as a solitary pilot, but as part of a species that had proven its worth. News of Earth's repulsion of the K'tharr Khanate invasion spread like wildfire across the planet. Initially, there was skepticism, a fear deeply ingrained in humanity's bones throughout the darkest months. Millions had witnessed K'tharr ships destroying their cities, seen loved ones turn to ash with their own eyes, and lived in the shadow of a dominated world. How could such a weak and exhausted species defeat a powerful alien empire? But then, irrefutable evidence began to emerge. Images of Echo, the mystical light patterns in the sky, forming humanity's resilient symbol, were transmitted across gradually restored, albeit patchwork, communication channels. Fragments of K'tharr ships, physical proof of a hurried retreat, were found on the planet's surface. And most importantly, the sky was clear again, free of the invaders' presence. Skepticism gradually gave way to exhilaration. An unprecedented wave of pride and hope filled the bunkers, underground outposts, and surviving communities. The people who had endured so much, lost so much, now found a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. It was an intoxicating feeling, a newfound faith in human resilience. Stories of courage, of small and great heroic acts, began to be retold, passed by word of mouth, weaving a new legend. In a small underground university town, where libraries of books and data were miraculously preserved, Professor Anya Vance, an elderly cosmologist with snow-white hair neatly pinned at the back of her head, stood on the rooftop of the astronomy building. Although this rooftop had once seen brilliant stars, now it offered only a gloomy view of a sky obscured by ash and the faint blue glow of Echo still shimmering on the horizon. She looked up at the sky, still shimmering with the faint remnants of Echo's light, her eyes filled with contemplation. Beside her was a group of students, their eyes gleaming with admiration, who had grown up during wartime and known only a ruined world. The truly amazing thing is not that we faced an intergalactic invasion and survived, Professor Vance said, her voice deep and philosophical, like the echo of thousands of years of knowledge. She pointed a hand to the sky, where the mystical blue light was slowly dissipating, but that we turned our entire planet into a silent declaration, a permanent symbol of defiance. A message written in light, sent across the universe. If that doesn't perfectly encapsulate humanity, I don't know what does. A student, filming the scene on his handheld device, nodded seriously, his young face filled with admiration. Yes, but Professor, did you see that clenched fist symbol? Legendary. I will never forget that image. It will be taught in history textbooks. And our lesson, we will tell it to future generations. Another student added, her voice full of inspiration, about how we stood up, not by brute force, but by will, by creativity, aboard the invincible conqueror, retreating in disgrace. Grand Khan Xylar never forgot that image. He looked up at the display. Earth now a distant blue speck in space. A faint blue dot that somehow looked more terrifying than ever. He had conquered hundreds of worlds, crushed dozens of civilizations, but had never encountered a species that could turn defeat into such a powerful declaration. A silent challenge in light from their very planet. Grand Khan, Colonel Krell approached, his voice still trembling, not fully recovered from the shock. We have escaped the range of that strange technology. The ships have regained full functionality. However, some navigation systems are still affected by the residual energy. Xylar didn't answer immediately. He remained fixated on the screen, his eyes etched with confusion and a cold anger. Their technology, it is strange, unlike anything we have ever encountered. Not weapon, not energy. It is like a manipulation of reality itself. An incredible audacity. We have analyzed the data patterns, Grand Khan, Krell said, his voice strained, and it appears that the beings on Earth received assistance from another civilization. Their spatial displacement technology is not something a species like theirs could develop in such a short time. Furthermore, our inability to detect them, that is impossible according to our theories. Xylar growled, his teeth clicking. An ally. Who dares defy the Khanate? A secret alliance? I will find them. I will crush them. No one is permitted to defy the Khanate. However, Grand Khan, Krell hesitated, looking down at his tablet. Regarding the message, death is not the end. Surrender is. We have checked the translation. It was not a threat of force. It was a contempt. He had learned his lesson. Bitterly, humanity was not a mere species to be conquered. They were a species the K'tharr Khanate would have to study more thoroughly before daring to return. The decision to wipe them out had been a mistake that yielded unexpected results. Making an example of them had failed miserably. Instead, They had made an example of themselves for the galaxy, a species that dared to stand against tyranny. And won. Meanwhile, the diplomatic ships of the Lyran Alliance began to officially approach Earth. No intimidation, no demands, only respect and a desire for cooperation. Ambassador Solara sent an official, public message, inviting humanity to join the Galactic Alliance, a vast organization of advanced, peaceful civilizations, sharing knowledge and technology. Director Anya Rostova, with the support of Kaelen Vance, Anya Sharma, Dr. Aris Thorne, and Dr. Lena Petrova, became humanity's first representatives in these negotiations. The first meeting, held in a virtual space created by Lyran technology, resembled a serene garden on an alien planet, the air fresh and peaceful, a stark contrast to the dusty bunkers they were used to. Within the Lyran Alliance Council chambers, an internal message was sent among the High Council members. After they received a full report on Earth's victory. Report complete. Humanity has passed its test, albeit in a unique and unpredictable manner. Their self-defense capabilities and free will far exceed our predictions. Their creativity and audacity, evidenced by the use of the entire atmosphere as a message, are astonishing. Prepare for cultural integration protocols. Simultaneously, reinforce auxiliary procedures regarding humor and adaptability. Something tells me we're going to need them. Very much. Another bulletin, transmitted among Lyran officers, was a friendly wager on which human cultural product would spread fastest once humanity joined the alliance. Leading candidates. Street art with its expressive graffiti. Rock and roll with its dynamism and rebellion. And something called endless emotion, a complex concept of love, pain, joy, and loss that the Lyran species were struggling to understand. Everyone agreed that contact with humanity would bring an entirely new dimension to galactic civilization. An unprecedented source of creative energy and chaos. For humanity, the sky was no longer a limit. It was a gateway, opening into a vast and promising universe. Cities began to be rebuilt, not just with concrete and steel, but with new materials, new technologies shared from the Lyrans. Clean, renewable energy was implemented, lighting up areas once shrouded in darkness. Regenerative medicine brought hope for healing the physical and mental wounds that war had inflicted. Kaelen Vance, no longer the captain of a last outpost, was now one of the pioneering leaders in space exploration. He flew on upgraded, Nightfall ships, not for battle, but for exploration, to establish trade routes, to meet new civilizations. Anya Sharma became an intergalactic data analyst, her sharp mind utilized to decipher the mysteries of the universe. Aris Thorne and Lena Petrova continued their work in Tartarus, now an advanced research and development hub, where Lyran and human technology merged, creating groundbreaking inventions. One evening, Kaelen stood on a new observation deck of Tartarus, now expanded into a modern underground city, looking up at a massive screen simulating the night sky, where stars glittered brilliantly like diamonds. Beside him, Anya Rostova, now Earth's ambassador to the Lyran Alliance, also gazed. "We've come a long way, Captain," she said, her voice soft. "From a crushed planet to a member of the Galactic Alliance. Who would have thought?" Kaelen smiled. "Only a few, Ambassador. Those who saw Echo long before it was created." He reached into his pocket and touched his gravity simulator, feeling its shifting weight. It was still his link to the past. But now, it was also a reminder of what had been built from the ashes. The echo of hope had resonated, not just on Earth, but far beyond. Through the cosmos, it was the echo of defiance, of an indomitable will, of relentless adaptability, and of a species that proved that even in its darkest hour, they could find the light to guide their future. The era of isolation was over. The era of exploration and cooperation had begun. Humanity, with its permanent mark on the sky, was ready to write the next chapter of its story.